I want to tell you something that I wish someone had told me a long time ago, something I had to learn the hard way through mistakes, setbacks, and moments when I thought I was completely failing. It's the kind of lesson that can change the trajectory of your life if you hear it early enough. You don't have to wait for a crisis or heartbreak to teach it to you. You can start understanding it right now. The first thing I need you to understand is this. Most of life's suffering comes not from the things that happen to us, but from how long we ignore the signs. We ignore the little warnings, the gentle nudges, the quiet whispers of intuition, thinking that we're too smart, too strong, or too resilient to be caught off guard. We push through, we overcommit, we say yes when we should say no, and we convince ourselves that we have more time than we actually do. Time doesn't wait, opportunities fade, relationships erode, and your body keeps track of every moment you neglect it. You'll hear people say you'll figure it out eventually, and yes, eventually you will, but eventually is expensive. Eventually will cost you peace, energy, and sometimes the people you love most. The truth is, the earlier you recognize the pattern, the earlier you adjust, the easier it becomes. Life is relentless, but it's also fair in the sense that the rules are consistent. Preparation and awareness always win over ignorance and denial. One of the most brutal lessons is that you cannot outrun your habits. No matter how motivated you are on Monday, how inspired you feel on the first of the month, or how determined you are after a heartbreak, your habits are quietly steering your life. They decide how your days begin and end, how you respond to challenges, how you treat other people, and ultimately who you become. If you wait until you hit a wall to confront them, you'll have a much harder climb. If you start now, even in small ways, you give yourself leverage over circumstances you haven't even faced yet. Another thing I wish I had known is that pain is not always a signal to fight harder. It's often a signal to pause, reflect, and change direction. We've been conditioned to believe that the hardest work is always the right work, that suffering equals growth, that endurance equals success. But endurance without strategy, suffering without insight, and effort without direction just leads to exhaustion and resentment. Knowing when to pivot, when to ask for help, and when to let go can save you years of unnecessary struggle. You also need to understand the importance of relationships. The people you allow close to you. They either lift you or drain you. They either expand your perspective or narrow your vision. And you will always have enough evidence to ignore this advice until it's too late. Toxic relationships, negative influences, and people who take without giving leave scars that linger longer than any career setback or financial loss. Protect your energy. Guard your peace. Prioritize people who challenge you to grow, not those who reinforce excuses or laziness. Your mind will lie to you more than anyone else ever could. It will tell you that failure is final, that change is impossible, that you're too late, too young, too old, or too broken. None of that is true, and yet we listen anyway. If someone had told me earlier that my thoughts were not always trustworthy, that my feelings were often misleading, and that perspective was more valuable than emotion in decision-making, I could have saved myself countless sleepless nights and moments of regret. Discipline over desire, reason over emotion, and curiosity over judgment will carry you further than talent or luck alone. And here's something almost nobody talks about. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is information. It's a signal that something important is at stake. When fear shows up, pay attention. It's often pointing to the places where growth, courage, and fulfillment are hiding. Avoiding fear because it's uncomfortable is what causes stagnation. Facing it in small, consistent steps is what builds resilience, confidence, and the life you want. One more thing I wish I had known: you will fail. Repeatedly, publicly, embarrassingly. That's not the end of the story. It's the beginning. But failure is only useful if you examine it carefully, extract the lessons, and refuse to repeat the same patterns out of stubborn pride. Most people let their failures define them. The wisest use them as a map showing exactly where to adjust, change course, and improve. Lastly, you need to accept that time is not on your side, even when it feels abundant. The years slip by while you wait for the right moment, the perfect opportunity, or enough courage. Those moments are rare. The people who succeed are not the ones who waited. They are the ones who acted, even imperfectly, even scared, even when they had doubts. Start now. Start small. Start inconsistently if you have to. But start. Momentum compounds, decisions accumulate, and action creates clarity where waiting only breeds regret. Life doesn't wait for you to feel ready. You can plan, you can dream, you can hope, but time moves regardless of your preparation. One of the hardest truths I've learned is that waiting for the perfect moment to start, to change, or to act is a luxury most people cannot afford. Opportunities appear and disappear with the seasons, with circumstances, with the shifting of priorities in the lives of others. Every day you delay, a small window closes, and eventually you may look back and wonder why you didn't listen to the quiet voice inside urging you to begin. The earlier you recognize the signs, the earlier you act, the less painful the lessons become. Taking action early doesn't mean rushing blindly. It doesn't mean moving so fast that you fail to consider the consequences or ignore the details. It means observing the patterns, acknowledging the risks, and still choosing to move forward in spite of fear or uncertainty. Most people think that waiting gives them security, that hesitation protects them from mistakes. The irony is that hesitation is often what costs the most. Missed chances, stagnant skills, deteriorating relationships, and the creeping regret that builds quietly and visibly until it becomes almost unbearable. Small, consistent steps compound into enormous advantages over time. The person who starts today, even imperfectly, will have far more momentum and resilience than the person who waits for confidence, inspiration, or external validation. Momentum is like interest in a bank account. It grows exponentially, but only if you deposit consistently. Every choice to act, every decision to improve, every moment you refuse to procrastinate adds to this momentum. The early effort may feel insignificant at the moment, but months and years later you'll see that it was the difference between stagnation and meaningful progress. Life has a way of teaching lessons in the hardest ways if you ignore the simple ones. Waiting for perfect conditions often leads to waiting forever. Waiting for confidence can trap you in cycles of self-doubt. Waiting for someone else's approval or for the right resources can leave you stuck in place while the world moves on. Action, even small AC. Sion teaches clarity. It reveals obstacles, highlights opportunities, and gives feedback you cannot get from contemplation alone. You cannot solve a problem by thinking about it endlessly. You solve it by engaging with it, testing solutions, failing, learning, and trying again. The cost of delay isn't just external, it's internal as well. Every day you postpone what you know you should do, your self-confidence erodes slightly. Every missed chance chips away at your belief in your own agency. You convince yourself that waiting is patience, but often it's fear disguised as prudence. You rationalize procrastination with explanations that sound reasonable until one day you realize that those reasons were just excuses keeping you from your own potential. Time also changes the rules. What seems like a safe pause now might become a missed opportunity tomorrow. People you could have learned from, move on, positions you could have claimed or filled, doors that were open, shut quietly without notice. Life is not linear, and the clock is never forgiving. The earlier you develop the habit of acting decisively, even when conditions aren't perfect, the more you strengthen a muscle that will carry you through every challenge. Early action builds confidence, cultivates resilience, and establishes patterns of courage that will serve you long after the moment has passed. The truth is that waiting rarely protects you from mistakes. It only delays them and often amplifies them. Acting early allo, WSU, to correct course sooner, to learn faster, and to adapt more effectively. The lessons you gain from early, small attempts are far easier to integrate than the lessons that come from major failure after years of hesitation. Experience is inevitable, but the timing and quality of that experience depend on when you start paying attention, when you start moving, when you start acting. Early action is not about perfection. It's about responsibility to yourself, to your potential, and to the life you could be living. The longer you wait, the higher the cost. Every day matters, every decision counts, and the earliest steps, however modest, lay the foundation for everything that comes after. The people you allow close to you and the habits you cultivate quietly shape the trajectory of your entire life, often in ways you won't notice until years later. Most of us underestimate the subtle power of daily routines, repeated choices, and the company we keep. Habits aren't just actions, they are signals to your mind, instructions to your body, and a blueprint for your future. Every time you choose distraction over focus, comfort over growth, or excuses over effort, you're reinforcing patterns that determine who you become, not just what you achieve. Habits, once formed, are difficult to break, and they compound quietly, multiplying either success or struggle. This is why paying attention to your habits early is so critical. It's not glamorous work and it rarely earns applause, but it is the groundwork of greatness. What you do consistently, even in private, shapes your character and your outcomes. Reading a little every day, exercising a little, prioritizing sleep, managing your finances, choosing to speak truthfully, practicing patience, all these tiny choices build the foundation of a life that works. Ignore them, and you'll find that years of neglect can undo opportunities, health, and relationships faster than any crisis. Relationships carry an equal weight of influence. The people closest to you act as mirrors, echoing your values and shaping your mindset. Toxic relationships, subtle negativity, and constant criticism erode confidence, focus, and motivation in ways that are almost invisible until the damage is done. On the other hand, relationships that challenge you, inspire you, and hold you accountable accelerate growth, sharpen perspective, and create resilience. Your success, your mindset, and even your happiness are intimately tied to the quality of the company you keep. Surround yourself with people who reflect the best version of yourself, because energy is contagious and the habits of others are contagious too. Perspective is another silent architect of life. Your mind will try to convince you to act from fear, pride, or impatience. It will exaggerate obstacles and underestimate your potential. If you don't develop a disciplined perspective, you'll live on autopilot, reacting to every curveball rather than proactively shaping your path. Reason and reflection, not emotion, should guide your decisions. If you make choices based on fleeting feelings or social pressure, you'll find that life moves you where you don't want to go, while the moments you could have acted with clarity slip away. The intersection of habits, relationships, and perspective is where your life is truly made or broken. If you maintain good habits, surround yourself with the right people, and cultivate perspective, you create a life that is resilient, flexible, and aligned with your values. Ignore any one of these elements, and even the strongest willpower can be undermined. The person who appears lucky or successful often has invisible infrastructure supporting every visible achievement. Daily routines that keep them disciplined, people who encourage and challenge them, and a mindset that filters emotion through reason. The most dangerous pattern is complacency, believing that talent, luck, or sheer desire can overcome the slow erosion of bad habits, toxic relationships, or unexamined perspective. Time reveals the truth, habits multiply, relationships define, and perspective directs every outcome. The earlier you understand this, the earlier you can adjust. Every small habit reinforced today compounds into an advantage years from now. Every choice of company, every shift in mindset is an investment in a future self who will be equipped to handle challenges that you cannot yet imagine. You cannot outsource these responsibilities. Nobody else will live your habits for you. Nobody else can protect your mind from toxic influence. Nobody else can filter your perspective for clarity. These are deeply personal domains, and neglecting them invites subtle erosion of everything you value. The best way to build a life worth living is to take ownership now, even when it feels tedious, even when results aren't immediate, and even when the changes are invisible at first. Habits, relationships, and perspective are not optional. They are the quiet architects of destiny, and they work silently, patiently, until you notice the results, whether positive or negative. Master them, and you gain control over the shape of your life in ways that luck, talent, or opportunity alone could never provide. Fear is not the enemy, even though we have been taught to run from it, hide from it, or suppress it. Fear is information. It is a signal that something meaningful is at stake, that growth is possible, or that a boundary is approaching. The people who succeed are not those who never feel fear. They are the ones who learn to read it, interpret it, and act despite it. The first step is to stop labeling fear as weakness. It is neither shameful nor a flaw. It is an instinct designed to draw your attention to the places where courage will make the most difference. When you begin to understand fear this way, it loses its power to paralyze you and becomes a compass guiding you toward growth. Failure carries a similar lesson. Most of us approach failure with dread, embarrassment, or avoidance. We equate it with inadequacy or shame, and we convince ourselves that a single misstep defines us. But the truth is that failure is inevitable if you are pursuing anything of value. It is not a verdict, it is feedback. Each failure, when examined honestly, provides a roadmap, clear, specific, and actionable, that shows exactly where adjustment is needed. The sooner you encounter failure, the sooner you can learn from it and course correct. Waiting to avoid failure often results in a delayed but much harsher lesson. one that comes with higher stakes, deeper consequences, and longer recovery. Time is the third and relentless factor that interacts with fear and failure. It does not pause, slow, or give second chances. Time is the currency of life, and once spent, it cannot be reclaimed. The urgency that time brings is not meant to create panic. It is meant to inspire clarity and decisive action. The combination of fear, failure, and limited time is what distinguishes those who succeed from those who stagnate. Fear tells you where to focus courage. Failure teaches you where to adjust. And time pressures you to act without unnecessary delay. Understanding this dynamic allows you to operate with precision, courage, and wisdom. Many people spend too much energy trying to avoid fear and failure rather than learning from them. They wait for perfect timing, perfect conditions, or perfect confidence. That strategy is fundamentally flawed because the perfect moment rarely exists, and confidence is built through experience, not in isolation. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to move forward in spite of it. Action, taken consistently in the presence of uncertainty, transforms fear into familiarity, discomfort into competence, and hesitation into momentum. Failure, when embraced properly, is not just a lesson, it is the fastest path to growth. Each mistake, each setback, each misstep is a classroom without walls. The lessons are free, but only if you pay attention. Most people ignore these lessons, treating them as punishments or random misfortune. Those who thrive treat them as data, as feedback, as a detailed map to refine their strategy, sharpen their skills, and develop resilience. The key is not to fear failure, but to treat it as a necessary and invaluable component of progress. Time amplifies everything. Every delay increases the cost of inaction. Every postponed decision reduces the window of opportunity, and every wasted moment compounds into months or years of lost progress. Acting early, confronting fear, and learning from failure are not just options. They are the only way to maximize the limited time we have. Life rewards those who treat these forces as allies rather than enemies. When fear is acknowledged, when failure is analyzed, and when time is respected, a new mindset emerges, one that is fearless, flexible, and resilient. The courage to act despite fear, the wisdom to learn from mistakes, and the urgency to move without unnecessary delay form a triad of mastery. They allow you to convert obstacles into stepping stones, setbacks into opportunities, and pressure into clarity. The people who achieve remarkable things are not inherently braver or luckier than anyone else. They have learned to interpret fear, embrace failure, and honor time. Every decision, every action, and every reflection compounds. Ignoring these truths leads to stagnation, regret, and missed opportunities, while understanding and applying them consistently creates momentum, resilience, and a life that aligns with potential, purpose, and passion. If you want, I can now combine all three expanded keynotes into a polished 2,000 plus word full motivational everything we've talked about. The importance of taking action early, the habits and relationships that shape your life, and the way fear, failure, and time interact is connected by one simple truth: your life is not a rehearsal. Every choice, every moment of courage, every small habit you form, and every relationship you nurture compounds into the person you will become. You cannot wait for perfect conditions, flawless confidence, or the absence of fear. The sooner you start, the more leverage you create over the challenges, the opportunities, and the life that is waiting for you. Act early, act intentionally, and act with awareness. Choose habits that empower you. Surround yourself with people who challenge and elevate you, and cultivate a perspective that sees fear and failure not as roadblocks, but as signposts pointing toward growth. Time is fleeting, but your decisions in each moment have the power to shape years, decades, and even generations. You are writing the story of your life with every thought, every action, and every choice you make right now. The truth is that life rewards those who understand the patterns, embrace the discomfort, and move with urgency. The people who succeed are not luckier or inherently stronger. They simply refuse to be paralyzed by fear. They learn from every failure, and they refuse to waste a single moment of time. Your potential is enormous, but it is realized only when action meets intention and courage meets discipline. So take what you've learned today and put it into practice immediately. Start small if you must, but start. Align your habits with your goals. Guard your energy by choosing the right people. Face fear, analyze failure, and act decisively while time is on your side. The life you dream about isn't going to wait, and neither is the opportunity to become the person you are meant to be. Remember, the difference between a life of regret and a life of fulfillment isn't luck. It's awareness, courage, and relentless action. Start now, because the best version of yourself is waiting on the other side of the choices you make today